Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Eric.
And this week we're going on an adventure. One might call it an Odyssey. The big movie for this week, and really the only wide release I saw for this week, is Christopher Nolan's much anticipated The Odyssey, which is now finally with us, based on the classic piece of literature credited to Homer. For centuries, this story has inspired readers and audiences. It's been oft imitated. It's been brought to life in different ways. I don't know. I'm a little older than you, Eric, so I remember the TV movie version that came out that was like an NBC product with Amanda Sante and Greta Scacchi that I believe was in the 90s. I have to go look it up. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But it's fair to say no one's ever done it quite like Christopher Nolan. This is his first film since Oppenheimer in 2023, a little film you may have heard of that won Best Picture. This is probably, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, the most ambitious in scope of all of his films. I think prior to this, I would have said it was Tenet, but I think this is even more ambitious in its set pieces and its world building and its back and forth. And it is an epic tale. It's almost 3 hours long, a little bit shorter than Oppenheimer, has an incredibly star-studded cast, brings it to life. I'm just going to say, for me, it's the best movie of the year so far. But how did you feel about it, Eric?
For me, it's the best movie of the year so far. This is a hard 2 thumbs up for me. There are few movies that deserve a thumbs up harder than just getting to see that slightly dim haze of knowing that the movie, this is just a total geek thing, so I'm sorry if this alienates anybody who does manage to watch this, but just,
I mean, if they're watching this, then they're probably
you've seen this look, this filmic look in like Dunkirk and Interstellar and all the frames. Like if you look at his movies where he hasn't been able to shoot the whole thing in IMAX, you'll recognize sometimes the director of photography aesthetic like looks the same, and not because it's coming through that lens, that light that the IMAX camera does. And just getting to see a whole thing, like, oh my gosh, this is everything Christopher Nolan does well since the beginning of his filmography. Messing with time in a way that is like really successful for telling one narrative, grounding fantastical elements like the Dark Knight trilogy, the way he like changed superheroes to all have to be grounded in reality, you know, like that take on things. Setting you up to believe a certain thing and holding surprises that this is like, the movie's out like today and tonight for most people, so I'm not gonna say anything about the stuff that really hit me the most today, but I will just say like every actor seemed to have so much energy and respect for what was going on. Everyone blew me away. I don't know if Tom Holland is just constantly surrounded by like CGI and a lighter-hearted universe, but in this, he kicked my ass. Anne Hathaway, after Mother Mary this year, I feel like I wouldn't be able to look her in the eye if I met her. Like, she's intimidating. She's so good. And
you haven't even seen Devil Wears Prada 2.
No. You have an awesome year. Matt,
she has a big one in a month too, the end of Oak Street, which I'm actually kind of excited about.
Me too, because it's the movie that Colin Trevorrow kind of promised for Jurassic Park, and we never quite got. So, like, you know, you feel what you feel about those movies. That's not really what I'm saying, but like, this is But anyways, Matt Damon, freaking incredible. All the hallmarks of the Odyssey, the siren, the Cyclops, Hades, the bow, you know, like all kinds of, oh gosh, just like talk about feeling like you're going through something legendary. And then on top of it, putting a new take, a personalized take on so much stuff I can't talk about. Just like, it would be petty of me personally, like, now 100%. No movie is perfect, so nobody else is really going to think like this. But for me personally, knowing my taste in movies, not giving this like a 10 out of 10 would be disingenuous. Like, I was shook. I was blown away. I cried. There was so much in there. Also, Robert Pattinson getting to be a weird little creepy weirdo is great.
I mean, I think arguably he's just playing himself.
Yeah. So
finally a performance I can get behind.
You didn't buy the British personality and like the Tenet thing. He's like, no.
No, he's fine. He's never been my favorite
He's always been
actor.
Cosmopolis.
I was always oh gosh. I was trying to say something nice. So why are you doing this to me? No, but he actually was much better as Batman than I assumed he would be. And he's been good. You know, he was fine in Tenet. It'll be interesting when we talk about the rankings. I was it is one of those that I've always been blown away by the craft, and I would have said prior to this that was probably his most ambitious in terms of worlds and things that he was trying to do and playing with time and everything. But when I actually this year, I don't want it to sound like work because Christopher Nolan is probably my favorite filmmaker, and he hasn't made a bad film in my opinion. He's the most consistently highly rated filmmaker for me. But when I was rewatching them, there was a couple of them that I really vastly changed my initial ranking and memory opinion on. So we'll talk about some Nolan rankings in a few minutes. But The Odyssey, I think, is a movie that just demands to be seen on the big screen. He definitely made it epic and an epic theatrical experience. I saw it in the local equivalent of IMAX yesterday, and I thought that was an important, I don't always spend upcharge, although ironically we upcharged for Moana, which is a movie I will talk about in a little bit. Maybe wasn't worth the IMAX upcharge.
Yeah. This is like probably a annoying thing to do to your local movie theater, but we got really lucky with something. If you look at the previews online, you can see where they're cropping the movie for the non-IMAX releases, but they still have the digital print of the IMAX aspect ratio. We went to a normal theater and we sat down and I was like, oh, because the screen was like 16:9 kind of boxed. And I was like, are we going to get them? Like, I recognize the stills from online. We got to see the whole picture. We didn't get to see it in IMAX, but we got to see the whole picture. So if you go to your theater showing and you're looking at a time and they will let you step inside, look and see if the screen looks like this or like this. You might get to see the whole thing without having to pay IMAX prices and stuff. So, yeah.
Which would be nice, because IMAX prices are not cheap. But I think it's worth seeing. I don't see everything that way, but this one, Nolan's films have always been something to see on the big screen. I'm pretty sure I've seen every one of his films since Memento. I've seen on the big screen, and I think it really works out here. I liked the way they approached the story. It is epic at times. It's deeply emotional and thoughtful at times, especially kind of that last third of the movie. Some of his Odysseus's back and forth with Calypso, played by Charlize Theron, really I found moving. As you said, Anne Hathaway gets some very moving moments and speeches. Matt Damon's back and forth with Zendaya. And where they chose to deploy her as the embodiment of God Athena, and then in a kind of unique way, I think, when he is talking about the sacking of the city of Troy, was fascinating. John Bernthal is only in there a little bit. He is very captivating in the sequences that he is in, and I know a lot of people.
Tell you something.
What?
That's just what John Bernthal says. Let me tell you something. Ever since Walking Dead, he was joking. They put it in every script he's in.
There was a lot of to-do made of the casting of a couple of the people, in particular Elliot Page. And Sinan, not a huge part of it. Yeah, and Lupita Nyong'o. Neither of those are a huge part of the movie, but they do a very good job in the one or two crucial scenes. Lupita Nyong'o opposite Bernthal, and especially when she's saying farewell to Telemachus. And then Sinan, it's really the sequence in Hades, and that is a pretty emotional and emotionally intense sequence, but I thought all the acting was good. I've seen some people bagging on Tom Holland. I think some people just cannot see him as anything other than Spider-Man, but I thought he did a good job here.
Phenomenal.
I've seen him in some other things. I really enjoyed John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
Very different kind of a performance. But I also am obviously two thumbs up. I love this one a lot.
I wasn't sure. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know where your bar is. I know it's probably not full 5 stars. You're probably at like 4.5 or something like that. But
Yeah, so that's interesting. We can go to talking a little bit about Nolan. Obviously, I'm not the only one that is a pretty big fan of Christopher Nolan. These are some of his Rotten Tomatoes score. And to have 69 be your low point is really saying something. He has not, in my opinion, made a bad film. But here, look, this is somebody's Letterboxd list, not my Letterboxd list.
Oh, yeah, I saw
But
this.
let's talk about if you've been following along on the site the last 2 weeks in binge watch, I did my complete Christopher Nolan feature film rankings. So not his short films, but I did include the following. So there were 12 going into the Odyssey. Actually, wait, need to make sure I did that math, Russ. Yes, there were 12 going into the Odyssey. So I did 6 on July 10th, and I did 6 yesterday for binge watch to finish that out. But I'll start with you. So what how have you felt about Nolan, and your initial impression of where you think the Odyssey will slot in for you?
We need to do like an hour-long special if we're going to talk about like the journey of Christopher Nolan. I'll keep it brief. So here's my narrative, and then I'm going to ask you to pop up the Rotten Tomatoes rankings again, and then I'm going to use that to sort out things, because I usually separate the Batman trilogy and Tenet from his list because of circumstances. So yeah, just like pop that down for a second. I'll get to that in just a second. Christopher Nolan carried my like Geek Boy film fandom into a full-blown, oh, I didn't realize how much like everyone talks about how like, oh, popcorn movies are just popcorn movies, and film art is film art. That's like what adults go see like as a kid, right? Christopher Nolan is the creator that blurred that line so smoothly that he kind of destroyed that gatekeeping sort of thing socially for me from the place that I came from. And the key movie that did that for me was Inception, because he was messing around in the superhero genre and creating like the ultimate classic, The Dark Knight, and things like that. And of course, like his work and his choice of casting constantly awakens me to actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, Heath Ledger, like that I don't think of as artists, because you think of how Hollywood has sold them to you through Titanic and A Knight's Tale and like all these things. He sees people who are creators and artists and committed to things, and he just brings out like a playing field for them. He was talking about directing the Odyssey, even in this one, and just talking about how sometimes, like with the chopping of the head statue and with the shot of the wooden horse in the sand, he needs a shot in his head sometimes. But most of the times when he's blocking intense scenes, they create an arena, a set, a playground for the actors to go in, and they find the shots based on the performances of the actors. He's such a collaborator. He's such a unique guy. And his work, just like his script writing, like it used to be a lot with his brother. So I kind of thought around the post-Interstellar, like Tenet, Dunkirk, Tenet, Oppenheimer like era. I was like, I don't know what's going to go, but Christopher Nolan has consistently proved time and again, like now he proved he can do horror, fantasy. Like, I don't think there's anything that the guy can't like make into his own voice and deliver on. But Inception was like a monumental movie to me. And I have this long ass rant to go on about the ending of that movie and all that kind of stuff. It'll just for someday. I think we've already actually talked about it. I think I've talked about it multiple places, but that happened. Interstellar was the first time I saw one of his movies in IMAX. And the cool thing about the theater that I now live 10 minutes from, that I used to go to all the time, is they will play the film to the point where you can hear the projector ticking in the back of the theater. and it's like this low running kind of thing. Like you can know that what you're doing has like that shake of like a projector in the film running through it. It's just this little thing to geek out about. Interstellar was the first movie I saw like that. Then I saw Dunkirk like that. Obviously with like COVID and all that, I missed Tenet, and that's why that one is like weird in my head. I had a lot of hangups about a story I was writing, and then I saw the movie, and it was just like, it was a weird time in my life. So his stuff has always felt bigger than my fandom can be. I've always liked movies and wanted to write and make movies, but he always feels like untouchable the way that he does things. He just plots things out, and it's amazing. So if you could pop up that ranking thing real quick, I'm gonna go through that because I think, yeah. So this is what the Rotten Tomatoes thing. I'll pull from our critics critique thing just to explain. These numbers are not people's actual rating of the movie. It's just the percentage of reviewers who said that it was a tomato versus a Rotten Tomato. So like 94% of people who saw The Dark Knight liked it over disliked it, but they all could have given it an average. And they used to tell you this on Rotten Tomatoes when you click the tomato, they could have given it all like a 7.5 out of 10 and it would still say 93, 94. So I'm just going to look at this. Like, it is hard for me to put the Batman movies in his filmography because even though they are distinctly the same director, there's such a specific story, like with specific characters, is such their own thing. But I think I would agree The Dark Knight sometimes gets overblown because of all the discourse about it. But I think just like every time I set all that aside and watch the movie, I would agree that it's up there. But the number one for me, which has now been really messed with, is Inception. Inception is exactly that line to me between art and commerce. It's like masterful. The relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Marion Cotillard, like everything in that movie works for me. The breakdown of it, the ability to just digest it as a popcorn movie, and then the ability to let yourself go mentally as far as you want with it. So Inception is number one, which means it's closely followed by Interstellar and the Odyssey right now are like interchangeable right there. And then I would say after that is The Prestige. And then Batman Begins. Then Oppenheimer, then Memento, followed closely by Insomnia, with The Dark Knight Rises like right there. They're all so close, man. They jump around all the time. And then until I rewatched Tenet, because I've only ever seen it once and I was going through something messed up in my head while I was watching it, I think for now I would put Tenet there before Following. I think that's all of them. You're muted. Or maybe not. Maybe that's just me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that's all 12. Yeah. I was pretty sure when I pulled it that it was all of them pre where he's at. So for me, as I said, I don't think Nolan's ever made a bad film. I don't have any of his 13 features rated below 3 stars. That's my bottom. Mm-hmm. I have 11 of them 4 stars or higher, 6 of them 4.5 or higher, and he's one of only a couple filmmakers that I have 2 5-star films. I think it's him, Spielberg, and Rian Johnson. That probably
Inception and Interstellar?
No. No. So
I like the mystery.
For me, I'll start at the bottom. Following, I think it's interesting. It was his first feature. That's my lowest rated one, and I have that at the bottom. And then Memento for me would be the next, and those are the only 2 I have that are less than 4 stars. I thought Memento was interesting. The trick of telling it in reverse is interesting, but it's not quite as much of the same kind of hook for me as some of the other ones. Probably the place where I really fell in love with him was his third feature, which was Insomnia, which was a movie that I really loved, and that's where I start 4 stars. And Insomnia is at 11, but I mean it's still a 4-star film for me, and I don't hand stars out willy nilly. This middle section is where it changed the most for me on rewatch. So at 10, I have Tenet. I always appreciated the visuals and the craft, and I used to have it higher. I liked it the year that it came out, but even that 2020, which was really truncated and a weird year for not getting a lot of releases, it wasn't my number one film for that year. I had preferred Nomadland and
Right.
Promising Young Woman, I believe, were both that
Oh,
year.
yeah.
And when I watched it again, I still really appreciate the craft, but I don't feel as emotionally invested in the story. And that, sometimes that's a personal thing. I kind of was on the fence. I think the craft is what led me to put it above Insomnia, although I think Insomnia has one of the best Robin Williams performances of all time. Then follow that, number 9, Batman Begins. There is, I would like to say there is no bad Batman films, but I've seen Batman Forever. So I know that's not the case, but there are no bad Christopher Nolan Batman films, but that's the lesser probably of his films, even though I really like a lot of things that he did with The Origin Story, and I like Liam Neeson in that one, and I like the way that it builds the world. Then number 8, for me, one that I jumped quite a bit is Interstellar. When I first watched Interstellar, I liked the beginning and I really hated the ending. And it used to be a 3-star bottom of the pile for me. And when I watched it over again, I remembered all the things that I liked and all the ways that it really emotionally connects in a lot of places at the beginning. And I wasn't as perturbed by the ending. So I moved it up to 4 stars and vaulted it quite a bit higher. So that used to be number 12 for me. That used to be like, Christopher Nolan's never made a bad film, but this one challenges my perception of that. And I've come to like it a little bit more. Maybe it'll be one that continues to rise. There are a few of his films that I have rated and re-rated and continue to pump higher every time I've watched them. Number 7 for me is The Prestige. I still remember the year that came out. We had two The Illusionist. Kind of forgotten to time, which is what happens when you cast Edward Norton in your film. But The Prestige, I think is probably one of his more underrated films. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. People would have heard me. It came out in 2006. So when I did the 2006 Rewind earlier this year, that was one of the films turning 20 years old that I highlighted, and I had rewatched for that. Hard to believe it's turning 20 years old. Kind of makes me feel old. Realizing that Batman Begins is 21 years old makes me feel old. And it could also be the time and age I was in my life when some of these things hit. So that is the end of 4-star movies. From here on out, it's 4.5 or better. And so it's number 6 for me is Dunkirk. I still remember when I saw that in theaters and how much I enjoyed that as a film. I like the way that he plays in 3 time frames, and the way that they end up coming together at the end I thought was kind of ingenious, telling a different kind of World War II story. Next of his pre-existing films for me would be Oppenheimer, which is a film that I liked quite a bit. When it came out, was one of my favorites, obviously, of that year. It and Barbie, I think, are always going to be tied together, not only because they came out on the same day, but because they are both so incredible and so incredible to rewatch. Number 3 for me, a film that I have consistently bumped up both in my star rankings and in my appreciation for Nolan and in my appreciation for where they fit in the larger scheme of the genre. And I know this is Ricky's favorite of Nolan's films, and that's The Dark Knight Rises, which I have come around to believing is probably the most severely underrated of his films. And I get why there are some things people didn't like, but I think the literary references, I'm a Tale of Two Cities person. And if you are a Tale of Two Cities person, the the ending. I try not to think about it because it'll get you really choked up. One of the best early Anne Hathaway performances. She is incredible in that. I like the broken Batman. One of the things that was always compelling to me about The Dark Knight is the way that it ends, and what I thought was misguided attempt of sacrifice that he makes of his own reputation to protect the city. And you see in Dark Knight Rises, yes, it was misguided and it didn't work, and it wasn't what they should have done. And I think you see the consequences of a lot of that, and you see, Batman and Bruce Wayne brought low and having to build themselves back. And there's a lot I like about that. And Marion Cotillard, I think, is good. And, You Can Miss Me with Tom Hardy sucks in that movie. He was doing, and he always does some weird things, but I thought he was a pretty menacing presence in that movie. So I like that one. Number 2 for me, and now is where you get my 5-star Christopher Nolan films, is Inception. One of my favorite all-time films. Just was an incredible. I remember seeing that for the first time in theaters and trying to figure out, how he did that. And number 1 for me, one of my most favorite films of all time. Probably my second favorite. If you've ever seen my Letterboxd top 4, it is number 2 is The Dark Knight. Probably a film I've seen 25 or 30 times. And just, so that is my, obviously one of my 5-star ones. And Christopher Nolan could end up being the second guy to get 3 5 stars, because I'm pretty sure I have 3 5-star films from Spielberg, with Private Ryan, Jurassic Park, and Jaws. I have contemplated where they're going to go. For now, I have the Odyssey at 4.5, and I actually slotted it at number 5.
Okay.
Right behind Oppenheimer and right ahead of Dunkirk. But a lot of times you have to sit with them. You have to watch them more than once. And Christopher Nolan films are very personal for me because his films all have marked significant moments in my life, the years that they were released. Obviously, Memento came out in 2001, which was a significant moment for everyone. Insomnia came out in 2003. That was the summer I graduated from college. I graduated from college that month. That was one of the last films I saw in theaters before I was out of college. The year The Dark Knight came out, I changed careers. I went back to get my master's degree and started working in a different field. So that was kind of momentous. The summer of 2010, which is when Inception came out, is when I met my wife. The summer of 2012, actually July of 2012, a week prior to its release of The Dark Knight Rises, is when we got married. 2017, when Dunkirk came out, was a year that I kind of shifted careers and focuses again. Obviously, Tenet came out in 2020. That was a big time for our world. Oppenheimer, when it came out, was a year that I changed jobs, kind of a big significant shakeup in my life. And I told my wife, we found out on July 6th that I got a new job and that we're moving to a new city. I told my wife I should have known when I saw Christopher Nolan on the schedule. I hope Christopher Nolan either retires or his next release is less momentous in my life. But it's just, I was thinking about the way that the years Christopher Nolan has released films has just been kind of momentous for me and for some of my own personal journey. And, it's been a fun.
That, what you just said is, I appreciate that so much, because that is the vein of how I track almost memories from a kid being a huge film fan. Is I can remember the relationships I forged off of like the Lord of the Rings releases, the Harry Potter releases, the Mission Impossible releases. Like I can mark times in my life off of these things. And it's easier to help with memory because it helps you track time with knowing the years you went to go see these movies. And that is exactly like, that's the story to me. Like when we talk about directors, of like, when you mark where they were, it helps you time capsule like what the world was like.
Well, and it was fun. Interstellar, when it came out, was the year my parents actually moved here to Colorado, where we were, and I got to see that with my mom in theater. So it was fun to go. We actually saw that and Birdman on the same day, back to back. So that was a heavy day of movie watching, and sometimes I wonder if that's what interrupted my initial perception. But well, Odyssey, go see it. I'm going to give you a clue, and then I'm going to touch on a movie that.
Well, I was hang on, I was crossing my fingers real quick. Just two little knockoff things. One, it's hilarious. They couldn't get Tom Hardy, so they got Logan Marshall Green for this movie, not Tom Hardy. We've always kind of
Tom Hardy have done that. That was kind of a
no. He wouldn't.
Tom Hardy would be too old for that.
It's just a long running joke with my wife and I that when we saw Logan Marshall Green start showing up in movies, we're like, that guy is not Tom Hardy, right? Like we, like at first, because they have this look that's similar about them. And of course, they don't look anything alike the more time has gone by or whatever. But it was just really funny to me, like the one core recurring sort of actor, like other than Cillian Murphy, that was not here was Tom Hardy. And they literally got not Tom Hardy. I thought it was funny. Anyways, The Dark Knight Rises. I have a cheesy, everyone, when you start to make videos and content for the internet, you're going to be embarrassed, right? So I have a cheesy, kind of embarrassing, roughly edited video that I refused to take down on our High Contrast channel called Plot Hole Knots, because I was originally going to do this series of Welcome to Plot Hole Knots, where you say there are plot holes and I say there are not, and you're tying the knot of the plot holes that people say are in the movie. The only movie I ever got through, I was going to do like Iron Man 3, and I had some scripts afterwards, but it fell apart. The Dark Knight Rises. I have a movie where everyone accuses that movie of having this issue and this issue and this issue. And so for one example, I'll say, how did Batman get into Gotham? There's a training sequence in Batman Begins showing how he learned to walk carefully across ice. So he walked into Gotham, not over the bridge, over the ice. And even when Batman is introduced in the suit, he is shown walking up on the ice that the people are on. And that's like the thing to me, is sometimes people are so busy trying to be smart about like tearing a movie apart that you miss the creativity of coming up with why a movie works. And so it's like a little time capsule of when I was trying something. So that's on there. Anyways. Yeah.
Just I mean, like I said, I don't think he's made a bad film, so it's always fun to look at, and I think we heartily recommend that one. I'm going to give you a clue, and then I will touch on a movie that actually released last week that I caught up with that I just can't heartily recommend. But first, to explain a movie plot poorly, I'll give you the clue and then let you think about it while I talk about Moana, and that is a bunch of people all fall asleep on a plane. So Moana, Disney's Moana, one of their probably more popular recent, and I highlight recent, animated films. It was released only in 2016, which is only a decade ago. They also had a sequel to it, which was released in theaters in 2024 at Thanksgiving, 18 months ago. So Moana, probably a little bit too new, or a lot newer of a property for this Disney live action remake kick they've been on. But here we are. They do the live action remake. They follow the story pretty much faithfully. And if you remember the story of Moana, a lot of it is not things that lend itself to live action. This was my complaint about the live action Lion King film. I mean, you essentially just CGI'd the crap out of it. Now, there are real performers here like Dwayne Johnson, who is reprising his role as Maui, and Moana and her family. The songs are all still bangers. The story is still fun and moving. But I'm still just giving this a thumbs neutral. And I don't think this is a bad film. If I had never seen Moana, the animated story, I might be more drawn into this. But it just feels like something that's a little unnecessary given where we're at right now. And I think that's probably why it bombed pretty hard at the box office, because, you know, people who loved Moana as a child are probably not at the age where it's going to be nostalgic to see it remade as a live action. You know, if you were 6 when you saw the original Moana, you're like 16 or 17 now. That's probably not a big draw for you. I don't know that Moana has built up enough nostalgia with like people of our age that we're excited to see it remade in a live action context 10 years later. And I think that's what I've seen more, is people being kind of frosted that Disney chose to go this way. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think the people do pretty decent jobs. The girl that was cast as Moana does a decent job singing the songs and being the charismatic lead, but a lot of it is CGI. You're meeting the giant crab. That's all CGI. Her best friends, Hey Hey and Pua, are definitely CGI. The big closing sequence, even Maui, his big power is shape-shifting. So while you see Dwayne Johnson do a few things, the moving tattoo is CGI'd onto his chest, and him being a hawk with that Dwayne Johnson hair is CGI. The entire closing sequence, I would even wager a lot of what they shot on the ocean is CGI, because the colors are too bright and vibrant and because of the things they do. So that's even more of a reason that I feel like this one even less lends itself to being kind of the quote unquote live action. Especially when it's only been 10 years. You haven't had, this isn't going back to Snow White out of the vault that was made in the 30s.
Yep.
This is going back to something where kids who watched it probably are still in school. They're just in high school now, you know? So
The Lion King got away with this kind of, I'm sorry, but BS, and made $1 billion. I think if they had waited 5 years for this to happen, 5 years, as long as Dwayne Johnson is still like up for it, I think this would have also made $1 billion, because you would have let the kids who were like 10 at the time, they're like 20 now. Like maybe they saw it for nostalgia, but like you got to really, you have to give distance if you're going to just remake a movie and try and get like nostalgia bait to get people to see it. Like, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I do wonder if they were worried about Dwayne Johnson and maybe aging out of being able to be the live action Maui, in which case you can go another way. You don't have to.
Just
I don't know.
I don't know why they don't just trust that they can sell the movie based off of some icons in the thing and just let directors do their own takes and actually make them like remakes, like reimaginings.
I mean, the thing you would be drawn to with Moana would be the basics of the story, but mostly the music. And that's what, you know, the songs are still bangers, but they're not new, you know?
No.
So, do you need your hint?
I really want the hint.
The hint is they dream a lot.
Of course.
Yep.
Of course. Let's find out if we're dreaming. No, that didn't even remotely start spinning. That just tooled around. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it is Inception. I thought since we were doing a Nolan episode, I needed to find a Nolan card, because I remembered going through here and seeing that there were a couple of them in there. So
I just got a new tablet, so I could have just done this.
Why do it the easy way? Why do it the
yeah, no.
Okay, well, that'll do it for us. I don't know what all things are out next week. We may do some catch up, because there aren't a lot of wide releases, unless you consider the cinematic version of the stage play Hadestown to be a major theatrical release. I think Nicholas Winding Refn's film is out next week.
Send me your top 3 to 5 recommendations for movies I probably missed this year, and I'll do like another catch up like I did like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so it'll be kind of a fun looking at that, because it's kind of the gap week before Spider-Man Brand New Day. It makes sense.
Which is my birthday.
People can only spend so much money on Tom Holland and Zendaya, you know, so they need to parcel it out the next 3 weeks, because they have it this week, and then they can catch up with the Odyssey, and then they can be watching, you know.
Yeah.
I still need to watch Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm not emotionally prepared, because I rewatched all the other Spider-Man movies. But until next week, I hope you yes.
For any of you who did stick around, if you want a digital copy of Inception, I never claimed it. First person who sees that and screenshots it gets the movie.
There you go. So definitely check out Inception. But also, I hope you take an Odyssey to the theater to see the Odyssey, because it is certainly worth going to see on the biggest screen possible. Until next week, we will see you at the movies.